What's going on, buddies? My Paul, but thank you all so much for checking out another video. Now, a couple of years ago, I did a video called Anxiety in Me, and it was where I completely opened up and laid bare how I've struggled with very severe anxiety issues over the past few years. It kind of got to the point where I was just too nervous to leave the house. And the thing is, with anxiety, it's not a case of, well, you're too scared to do anything. No, it's not like that at all. It's not like you're a little wimp hiding in the corner of your room like, daylight. It's a case of your fight or flight reflexes kick in. It's all build up and no payoff. You ever have that moment where you have a very, I wouldn't say a very near miss with a car, but one that you kind of look at back and think, fucking hell, that could have gone a lot worse. And then you have that bit of adrenaline kick in, and then everything just kind of calms back down. Yeah, it's the lack of calming down on the other side of that is what anxiety is, and that for me was the case over every little thing. And it got bad, man. It got really, really bad. And I'll be real with you, I went to the doctor, I got some medication or the rest of it, and medication for me did not work. Medication, it didn't necessarily make things worse per se, but it nulls your brain, effectively. It nulled my brain, and it made a lot of my other senses a lot duller as well. Like, I was struggling to perceive distances, I couldn't understand people's facial expressions, and just shit like that all went out the window. Now, yes, I am slightly on the autistic spectrum, and I'm okay with that. I and my son both are on the autistic spectrum, and I always say to him, you know, you may have autism, but you're not autistic. Because I always kind of think when people say, oh, he's autistic, it puts too much of one definition onto that person. You know, he's just another regular person, but he's got autism. And it's the same with mental health. You know, you're not a depressed person, you're just a person who's got a bout of depression. And whilst I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, I've had depression, I know exactly what it means, I've always thought I'm going to be suicidal and stuff like that. I've never been depressed, I've never had a suicidal thought ever cross my mind, and that's something that I'm, fortunately at this point, is something that I've never had to deal with. But with having a bad batch of mental health issues, it's always good to talk about it. Because I am a lot better now. I am a hell of a lot better. And I mean, it took years, and I mean years, of working on it to get it to this point. But I am at a point now where I can control it. And fortunately, I've been able to control it for a while, but I don't think I've ever been in a place this good where I'm this happy, where I was in a position to really present something and give, not necessarily hard evidence, but or a cure or a remedy, but just certain things that I would do in day-to-day life, which made me continually get better to the point where you don't even think about it anymore. And that is a point all of us want to be at. Let me understand this, for anybody who doesn't have mental health issues or understand what mental health issues can lead to, nobody wants this. Nobody wants to be anxious over every little thing. Nobody wants their fight or flight instincts to kick in over every single little thing, as in going to the shop to get milk, going to put petrol in the car. Nobody wants that. They are just run-of-the-mill routine tasks, and nobody wants to have a big build-up of anxiety or anxiety issues leading up to that. Nobody wants to be depressed. Nobody wants to be sad. Alright? Nobody wants to be manically depressed. Nobody wants to think that their life is meaningless. Nobody wants to think that their whole life is worthless. Their entire being of being on this planet is a complete waste of fucking time. Nobody wants to feel that way. And yet it gets people to that point. And one of the biggest things I got asked was when I came out with anxiety, and this was from people around me, immediately around me, is, well, what have you got to be anxious about? It's like, oh, well, look at that, I magically made everything fucking better. Don't get me wrong, they had a point, but it doesn't work like that. It's not as if I'm depressed, oh, be happy, oh, fucking hell, depression's gone. You know, it doesn't work like that, man. But I also think it's give and take. I honestly think that people who are suffering from mental illness, they get so drawn onto that one thing, and when they know what that is, and they think, that's the reason that I'm like this, that's the reason that I'm like that, that's the reason I'm like the other. And the fact of the matter is, man, you can't let these things define who you are. Alright, if you don't want to be that something, you've just got to fucking do it whatever you can within your power to change that. And I know that sounds really easy, and that sounds like me saying again, don't be sad. But it's give and take, alright? If you are suffering with a mental illness, you need to want to get better. Of course I want to get better, I don't want to live with this. But the thing is, you'll find, and this was something that I was doing, so I'm not even going to be fucking, I'm not even arguing this is something I was doing at points where you're just kind of drowning in your own self-pity. And I always kind of thought, oh, I'm going to be the fucking last person to turn up to my own pity party, man. But it was. And as soon as you realise that and you need to just kind of snap out of it, and knowing that then was that I've got to try and face this thing head on. Because you can go to the doctors, you can go to hospitals, you can go and see specialists, you can go talk to whoever you want to talk to. My ears are always fucking open for anybody who wants to chat, anybody who's struggling with these issues. You know, it's always better to speak to someone who's been through it. But you have got to make that first step. Alright, you. And I know it's scary, because it's fucking terrifying, but you have got to make that first step into wanting to get better. Now, what I did was, to really try and get over this, was obviously, first of all, I took that first step of going to the doctor, speaking to them. Then they put me on the sertraline. Now, I've been through this before. It makes your brain numb. It makes your fucking sphincter stretch out to about fucking 5 foot. Sounds great on paper. Trust me, not. And it didn't really do anything. Like, for me, I remember, thinking back on it now, I remember massively seeing things that weren't there, and you're probably thinking, oh, right, so you saw like a donkey, or you saw a horse, or no, not like that at all. No, I wish. I remember driving back home from work, and I saw an accident, and there was a little girl just thrown all over the road, like ripped apart all across the road. And obviously this is fucking horrifying. So I pulls over, I gets out the car, and I goes to go into the road to take a look, and nearly gets hit by a fucking lorry as it just drives over this girl who's in the middle of the road. So obviously you're shocked as shit at this point. Now, we're not talking old either, we're talking 4, 5. Why was I thinking about 5-year-old girls? I don't know, but it just fucking happened. And honestly, it was the weirdest thing. This car, it was in the middle of the road, and the first time this had happened, I was like, why the fuck is nobody stopping? Why are people driving straight through a car which is on fire and everywhere, and nobody's aware of this? Hang on, this is something to do with fucking me. And that was hard, trying to realise what was real and what wasn't real. Now, a weird side effect I had from this was I lost all sense of fear. Now, anybody knows me knows I'm fucking terrified of birds. Birds honestly scared the ever-living piss out of me, especially in an enclosed environment. And no, I was quite happy to go up into an aviary to test this out and just walk in amongst a bunch of pigeons, like a pigeon shack, and I was sound. Fucking no problem there whatsoever. So at that point I'm thinking, wow, these are fucking magic drugs. But they're not, they fuck with you, and they don't actually cure anything, they just kind of give you a bit of respite from it for a while. My biggest leap of faith for me was something as simple as I had to tell my wife to forget things at home. I had to tell her to forget things like milk, to forget things like nappies, to forget things like bread, and just whatever, just menial things that mean nothing. A 5-minute job, nip to the petrol station on your way home, go get this, nip to here, go get that. And it put like an extra 15-20 minutes onto my journey, and like leading up to it, dude, that's fucking terrifying. And I know how stupid it sounds, but that's what it was like. And that thought of doing that was terrifying. But then you went and got it. Sound. No marver whatsoever. And you always kind of think, well, that was no big deal. And it was a little victory, and you take that into the rest of the night and you'd be happier about it. And then it was slowly but surely doing more and more things like this, which kind of led me to the point later on down the line where the anxiety stopped controlling my life anymore. But it was all about taking that first step. It was all about overcoming that fear, and it was all about overcoming them fight or flight instincts. And you've got to just tell your brain that you're the one who's in control here, not it. Alright, I know how hard mental health is and how hard it is to recover from mental health. I didn't think I'd recover from mental health. I honestly thought I was going to be at this point where I'd be like this for the rest of my life. You know, too anxious to go around and doing fucking anything. But you're not if you just stop and break everything down. Alright, I stopped worrying about things. I made sure that the basics and everything was in order. I had enough money to pay the mortgage this month. You have enough money to pay for this month. Make sure everything is in order in that retrospect, and everything else will fall into place. I got my priorities set and stopped worrying about other things, because I would worry. I would worry about loads of things. When you got anxiety, it's not just like a physical thing that you worry about. It's every little thing. And you kind of thinking, it's like even to the little things, like you get into bed and you think, have I locked the door? I'm sure I've locked the door. Have I though? And your brain's like, you best go fucking check because you're not sure. No, I honestly sound I've locked it, and you try to go sleep. Have you? Fuck's sake! And you get up and you go back down, and then it'd be the same. Have you been for a piss? Because you don't want to wake up in the middle of the night going for a piss. And you probably think, what's so wrong about that? But again, in your head, when you're having these issues, it's like a massive thing, and you dwell on these things, and you wouldn't sleep. And let me stress how important a good night's sleep to you is now. I know that sounds like a fucking old cliche, and it might just be because I'm getting older, but We've now in our house, except for on a weekend, a strict 11 o'clock rule. If you're not in bed by 11 o'clock, you stop whatever the fuck you're doing and you go to bed. Alright, usually like nowadays, I start trying to wind down about 10:30, so I'll make sure I'm in bed for 11 and that's it, and just start wearing yourself to sleep. I don't care how long it takes to fall asleep, but if you're in bed for 11 o'clock, you're winning that, because you're still resting, you're still like catching up, you're still charging the batteries, so to speak, and you're still contributing towards that. But if you're up till 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning worrying about these things, they're never going to go away. You can't solve a problem at midnight. You know, it just doesn't work that way. You have to solve it the next day, and to do that, you need to be in clear mind. So sleep's important, man. Now, I can't talk to anybody about diet. I mean, I have lost a stone this year, and I lost nearly a stone and a half at one point, but I've kind of gradually been putting that back on, so I definitely need to get better in that regard. And so, as far as that goes, I'm definitely not going to preach to anybody about that. So as far as I'm concerned, eat whatever the fuck you want. But this is what I mean. Anybody who's out there with a mental health issue right now, and that's kind of the only thing that they establish themselves as. Hi, my name's Dean, and I've got depression. That's kind of what it's like for a lot of people. You know, I was like that, you know. Hi, I'm Robbie, and I have crippling anxiety. But, you know, a bunch of other things as well, and that anxiety was just a part of that. But when you stop, if you stop letting your brain be in control of everything subconsciously and try and win that back, then you got a far better chance of succeeding. The only reason I wanted to do a follow-up video on this is because it's been a few years and I am a lot better, and without having people to talk to around me, I don't know how far away from this I would be now, which obviously if it does get worse, you honestly never want to know what that path would be like. But fortunately, when I came to a fork in the road, I was able to choose the right way, and I want other people to choose the right way, because you can beat it. As stupid as it sounds, it's not as bad as what you make it out to be in your head. Honestly, it's not. I've been there. And we just let it dwell and we let it win, and we think these issues are a lot bigger than what they actually are. And I saw something, I think it was like a college professor on YouTube, something. I was kind of scrolling through. Don't get me wrong, I'm not one of these people who sees an inspirational post on Facebook and think, that's my life. I see somebody put an inspirational quote on Facebook, I tell them to fuck off. I tell them to get in the fucking bin. Fucking hate that shit, man. But I saw, I think it was a lecture or something like that, and what it was an example of your stress and your worries. And basically what it was a pint glass, you fill it full of water, and you hold it out in front of you. Now you hold that, and in that glass of water was all your depressions, all your fears, all your anxieties, and all your worries. And you hold it out in front of you for a minute. It's not too bad, you don't really feel it. To be fair, it doesn't really weigh on you whatsoever. Hold it out for 10 minutes. Yeah, you know, you start feeling the weight in your arm now. That weight in your arm's getting a little bit heavy. And then what about for half an hour? How heavy do you think it got then? What about after an hour? What about 2 hours? What about 4 hours? What about 12 hours? And that ball kept rolling from there. That little glass of water, which was no real big deal, becomes a massive thing and will have you down on your knees. And that's what mental health is like when you have these mental health issues. And you've got to, like I say, it's without going around in circles. For me, the only way for me to get better was, you've got to try and not necessarily weight everything on people, but you've got to talk about it, man. You've got to talk about it. You can't make it be the only thing that you talk about. You can't make it the only thing in life you focus on. There's got to be other things as well. And the stupid thing is about mental health, you'll get better without even knowing it. When you stop listening to what your brain tells you, you will start getting better without even realizing it. You know, slowly but surely, the anxieties go away. You didn't even realize they were there. You know, they didn't even realize they're gone. There's no reward for getting better. You just get better. You don't even realize you get better until one day it creeps up on you and you think, oh, not this feeling in a while. Oh, right, little bitch. Right, let's see how you fucking like this, and get in my car, go fucking anyway, I don't care. Just anywhere, just like, can't do that. Yes, I fucking can. I will win. And that's what it was like for me, and that's how I got better. It's very easy to tell somebody to man up and get over it. And don't get me wrong, in my sense, facing it head on worked. It worked, and I got past it, and I faced all these issues that I was having, and by hook or by crook, I've fucking fought my way through, and I've come out of it with a couple of scars and a little bit uglier. And I'm covered in tattoos now, which has probably contributed. But there was a way around it. I saw a statistic the other day that 74 men, young men with kids in the UK, commit suicide every week. Just imagine, 74 people. That's mental. You know how scary that must fucking be? Like, that would be horrific, dude. To have something weigh on you that badly that you kind of get to the point where you think you've got no other option than to kill yourself. Because when you kill yourself, everyone thinks like, oh, I'll kill myself, I'll just respawn. No, once you kill yourself, that's it. That's it. Done. And they always think about you, and you don't think of what that ripple effect is going to have on the people around you either. Like, getting over for family members something as traumatic as that, I wouldn't even want to bear to imagine how hard that's going to be, and especially if they were just in a position where they thought I could help. And the thing is, and I know it's hard, and trust me, I know how fucking hard it is to just make that first step and go and see a doctor and talk to them and think, how can we start dealing with this to help me get better? That is the first step. And the people who take that step, the majority of the time, come out of what their issues they were having. They just find a way to address it. They just find a way of managing this illnesses until it goes away. And it's not about getting an instant cure. It's not about magical pills that will make you feel better. It's about managing short term. It's about how you can fight back short term. Alright? It just doesn't go away. It takes work. This takes a lot of fucking work. And you've got to put that work in to get better. Everybody's rooting for you. They are. Everybody wants you to get better. But you have got to take that first step. And thing is, if you are having a bad day, yeah, you've got to let the people around you know. You've got to let the people at work know you're struggling, at home know you're struggling. Even in embarrassing, I'm a great, big, ugly, hairy fucker, and I had to go up to my wife and say, I feel nervous at times. Do you know how fucking retarded that sounds? Like, I shit you not. Do you know how stupid that sounds? But you've got to. Like, it's bigger than you, and it will beat you if you let it. But you've got to face it head on. You've got to talk to people. You've got to have the people around you actually be supportive of you. But you can't lay it on thick with them as well, because you honestly don't know what they're going through either. All right, it's so much give and take, and this is such a complicated conversation to have. But how I honestly got better was ditching all the pills and all the prescriptions and all the medications and getting my biggest fears and facing them head on. But I'll be fucking bollocksed if I ever take a few sertraline and go into an Avery ever again, because I must have been off my tits for that to happen.